often drives these things. And the R4 townhouse construction zoning limit is 68. They magically appeared at 68 because they are maximizing what they can for value. That's fine. It's a business. I get it. But if you, as Mr. Robinson asked about other townhome developments in Skokie, none of them are over 12 units an acre in density. The max is 11.9, Lincoln Ridge at Skokie to Lincoln. It's in an R4 district. It's 12 units. We have 4 acres. It would be 48 units. Obviously, that makes it very hard to make a financially viable product. But that is the basically the model of what Skokie has right now. So it's against the model, and it just happened to maximize the density based on what the zoning says. So the community engagement theater that I mentioned was just that all of these zoning, density, all these decisions were brought up by the community, but they were never actually referenced to the community. They were then went to closed door meetings with the Plan Commission to generate all of these things, to get all the way down to an all townhome development without any consultation with the community. The community wasn't against multifamily. The community was against this just absolute, all of the negotiations happening behind closed doors, and then us being told things at these 3 community meetings, being told what we can and can't comment on. We were restricted to commenting on the colors of the building, of which all of our comments were then disregarded by the Appearance Commission. So I just want to again say I oppose this development.
Hello, my name is Daniel Garden, and I'm a Skokie business owner which employs a significant number of employees in the village, and I'm also one of the presidents of R.E. Crown Hebrew Day School. I respectfully ask the Board of Trustees to vote in favor of approving this project. This project will not just simply check the box of successfully having a property become a taxable asset and be on the tax roll, which is something that is important and something the school committed it would try to do when selling the property. At the same time, this development will also be beneficial and an improvement for the community as a whole. There are many Skokie-based businesses, including my own, whose companies can benefit from a project such as this one in front of you this evening. Brand new, attractive rental properties can appeal to new employees and bring them to the village in a time when many companies are having issues with staffing, especially healthcare providers as the company I represent, where there is a significant shortage of nurses and other essential employees. There will hopefully be a boost for our local businesses and the community as a whole. I also stand here representing hundreds of parents and supporters of the school, many of whom are here today, who in one way or the other are tied to the very fabric and woven into the fabric of Skokie. And they have been for many, many decades. We are all very strongly in favor of the project being approved and hope to see those results tonight. Thank you for your time, not only for this evening and for this project specifically, but for your constant efforts and your time commitment on behalf of the entire village of Skokie.
Good evening. Thank you to the mayor and the board members for your time and listening to the merits of this case. Without restating all the specific aspects of this petition.
May we have your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian Levinson, I'm about to say, I'm sorry. I would simply like to make a simple statement on behalf of R.E. Crown Hebrew Day School. My name is Brian Levinson. I'm a member of the executive board of R.E. Crown Hebrew Day School. I have appeared before this board several times on behalf of various civic and educational-based projects that have all had a significant positive impact on the village. I'm a board member of a number of Skokie-based not-for-profit organizations, a member of the Skokie Economic Development Commission, and hold dearly the best interest of the village as a whole. I am joined tonight by a room full of fellow R.E. Crown parents, faculty, and supporters. R.E. Crown has been a valued member of the Skokie community for decades. Our families and close to 800 students include Skokie residents, Skokie business owners, and Skokie civic leaders. R.E. Crown has been located in Skokie for close to 50 years. As this board is aware, R.E. Crown has embarked on the redevelopment of a new school campus so we can be part of the Skokie fabric for the next 50 years. In the multi-year search for a new larger campus, it was our primary goal to keep the school in Skokie is a valued community asset. That process included working with village staff as well as this board to ensure that the existing campus on Main Street be redeveloped for a use that places the property on the tax rolls while at the same time being redeveloped in a way that enhances the village. We have worked with the developer to do just that. If the board votes against approval of the redevelopment plan, the property will be tainted for development, and finding a developer willing to purchase the property will be very difficult. RE Crown, as a property owner in the community, should be afforded all the rights that are available to them to realize the best and highest use of their property. The developers worked diligently with both the village staff and the neighbors to adapt the proposed plan to accommodate many of the requests presented by the opposition. Due to those accommodations, RE Crown has had to reduce the sales price of the property considerably to allow the economics of this development to work. We, the families and supporters of RE Crown, implore the members of the board to vote in support of this project consistent with the village staff recommendation. This support will strengthen Skokie through increased quality housing stock, positive economic impact, as well as supporting the educational needs of our children. In addition, this project enhances the Main Street redevelopment plan being worked on by the village. Approval of this project is good for the neighborhood, the village, and the continued role that RE Crown Hebrew Day School plays in Skokie. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening to the members of the board and to the mayor. My name is Jack Goldberg. I live on Elm Terrace. We moved to Elm Terrace in 1977 when this school was a public school. After the public school closed because of lack of students to fill it, it was empty for a while. Then it was rented out to the Futabaki school, the Japanese school, who were ideal tenants, very, very nice people, and they kept the property really in immaculate condition. When they left, RE Crown bought the property and has been there ever since. We were hoping, when RE Crown bought this property, that many of the parents that you see around here would actually move close to RE Crown School. Never happened. How many of you who are RE Crown parents, etc., live within 500 yards of that school? Probably none of you. It was a really shock to us to see this development. The 5-story building was, as it was said before, a non-starter. This development reminds me of the Pete Seeger song from 1963, if you remember that. Little boxes, all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. This really is an inappropriate development for our neighborhood. We would rather see it developed into much more appropriate lower density housing. We are really afraid of this high density housing for winter when it's the street parking, and where are all the people going to park? Because you know that yes, they all have 2-car garages, but a lot of people will park on the streets, and it's going to be terrible when it comes to the alternate parking situation during the winter. The other big problem that we see based on the density here is the rat problem. We all know that the garbage collection is going to be outside there, and right now we have a small rat problem, perhaps not so small in Skokie. I just see that this type of density of population with the amount of garbage produced by that is going to create real problems for our neighborhood. And I would ask the members of this board to really reconsider whether this is going to be an ideal project for this neighborhood. We, my wife and I, are really against it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rose Bloomstein. I live at 4727 Bobolink, and I am totally opposed to this development. It is too dense. It does not fit in our neighborhood, and I wish that the people who are investing in this lived in the neighborhood and had to deal with the increase in traffic and density that we will, as people who have invested in this neighborhood and live here presently. Thank you.
I hate talking in front of people. So, yes, I'm definitely against it. It's too many people in one spot, and I think that.
Your name, please?
Shirley Trissel. I live on Main Street in the two-story townhouses that are 2 stories. If you just take a walk down that 4600, even a walk down Main Street, you can see that what's planned is not in sync with the rest of the neighborhood. All the other sides, yes, there are tall buildings, there are big apartments, but there's huge large yards between them. There's lots of green space, and if you look on the other side, I don't remember the street, but the south side of Maine, there's a beautiful little park that takes up half a block. Why can't you could make half a block out of the park, or park out of the half of the block? And the traffic issue is like, it's unimaginable, because the one-way street, Elm Terrace, what is it, Bobolink? Yeah. It makes it impossible to get out. I live on the Kirkpatrick side. I don't have a parking spot because there's high wires. And anyway, half the time the trash people don't empty it properly, so I've had a flat tire. And I have time-related work schedule, so I can't be late, so I park on the street. A lot of times I park 2 blocks away and I have to carry my groceries through the snow and stuff just because the parking's filled up. And this is not when the school's in session. This is other times in the summer. My car gets run into sometimes because there's parties and block parties and stuff. So even more people would make that really difficult to live with. So anyway, I'm against it.
Good evening. I'm Emi Yamauchi. I'm a resident of Skokie. I am not directly affected by this particular development. However, I do certainly support what my neighbors on Main Street are saying. But on a larger playing field, I also wanted to note, as a couple of people did before me, that the irony of praising of how big and expansive and active the Niles Food Pantry is just symbolic of the fact that we've clearly got an affordable housing problem. People who cannot afford to buy food at the grocery store at regular prices are probably doing in that situation because they are paying more than the 33% that's considered reasonable to not be overburdened by your housing costs. So I hope we're aware of that irony, that as much as we're praising the Niles Food Pantry, it is emblematic of a larger problem in our community. Secondly, the lawyer for this particular development stated that because there was no inclusionary zoning ordinance, they chose to make their payments of fee in lieu of $150,000. For anybody who's on the affordable housing side of things, $150,000, whether it's for a studio that could be affordable housing or a 3-bedroom townhouse that could be affordable housing, it's ludicrous to have one fee because it is not one size fits all. And for the person who thinks that a healthcare worker can afford a $3,700 a month rent, I do not know of any healthcare worker who is making that kind of money, unless that $3,700 is more than 33% of their annual salary. Lastly, well, maybe not quite lastly, but I find it also very disheartening that you would let the developer speak for as long as he wants, including reviewing all of these things that we have heard at previous meetings, and yet the man who's clearly representing more than 100 of his neighbors, he gets cut off and he's told, you don't want to hear a review of his points. He is, after all, a taxpayer here, a current taxpayer here, and the other 100 people who signed the petition are current taxpayers here. Last but not least, I hope you realize that what you are doing by making fee in lieu so easy as a buyout for on-site affordable housing is you are laying the groundwork for economic segregation in Skokie. And you are going to be separating permanently the haves from the have-nots, because in the words of the lawyer for this development, their original goal was always to have a luxury development. And what the village does is it just gives them the easy way out at a flat fee that makes no distinction between a studio or a three-bedroom unit. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Polka. I live in Skokie. You have the pleasure of seeing me tonight because your live stream died. Speaker before me covered the two things I wanted to say, but it seems that the mayor prefers for people to repeat themselves. I find it ludicrous. This is not the first time that it has happened. When somebody has done the legwork, they are a specific stakeholder, that they are not allowed to combine their time when the developer, and it's been said by Chairman Luke, it's been said before, the developer has paid a permit fee. As was previously stated before me, we pay fees every single day. We should have a voice, and if 100 people in a neighborhood want to let one man speak for their 3 minutes, they should be able to let him speak for their 3 minutes. He put together a presentation that was right when the live stream died. I am all for transparency in government. What are you afraid of? Why do you not let the people speak? The second thing is, I think that this has shown, the lawyer for the developer was asked why he was doing the fee in lieu. This has been discussed in our affordable housing meetings here, that people would buy their way out. And he said tonight that they chose fee in lieu when they thought both were going to be on the table, and they really didn't have to do either because they were here before anything was coming. They chose fee in lieu. So please keep that in mind when I hope affordable housing comes back, that he just proved the point that people will choose fee in lieu. And like it was just said before me, it is going to cause a divide. And it is not going to create affordable housing in the spirit of what we're trying to do.
I might point out that
I don't need to.
I'm not talking to you. The question of affordable housing has come up. We were informed today that actually the amount of affordable housing in the village of Skokie has gone up, has not gone down, it's gone up from 19.7 to 21.2%. That is significant. So to say that this project or any project is going to diminish affordable housing just simply is not verifiable by the facts. And that's not me, that's the Illinois Housing Development Authority.
You're twisting what I said. If you want to have a conversation, that's what we're doing.
I'm not trying to.
I'm sorry, would it be possible to ask for the source of that? Because simply saying the amount has gone up to
Gail Schechter.
21.2%.
Gail Schechter.
Okay, but where are the figures saying how many people are in need of it? Because if the Niles Food Pantry is giving out a gazillion pounds of canned goods and whatever, clearly the demand for affordable housing has gone up. So that figure,
In the township.
okay.
Township. The
Well, but
township
he
isn't
kept
just
He
Skokie.
kept referring to the village when he was
I
speaking. When
understand.
Mr. Collins was speaking, he was referring to the village, not to the township. So until you can show how that figure of 21.2% relates to the actual demand and need in Skokie, in spite of the fact it comes from Gail Schechter, which makes me believe the figure is accurate, it doesn't give the full picture. Thank you.
A motion is in order on.
Mayor, I'd like to make a statement before you vote.
Okay.
I'd like to, at this time, say that the Planning Commission has never held a closed-door meeting with this petitioner or any other petitioner in the past since I've been chairman. That would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and it would be illegal. So I don't know where you got your information, but it is wrong. Thank you.
Mr. Gershon, briefly.
Very briefly, I just wanted, I'm not gonna make any arguments, just correct a few misunderstandings here. But a few comments that this property was sold for $10. Illinois has what's called nominal consideration laws and deeds. My deed says I paid $1 for my house, okay? Because that's what what you're required to do in Illinois for nominal consideration. I promise you I didn't pay $1. Erie Crown's asked me not to say how much. I can tell you they paid millions of dollars for this property. So I wanted to make sure that that was cleared up. Luke's already cleared up one of the ones I absolutely wanted to make sure was said. On the density, again, discussed heavily at Plan Commission, we are at 17.3 units per acre. The other multifamily and townhomes surrounding our property are at 50 or more units per acre. And the other one, just because I hate being in a meeting where someone's professionalism is questioned and they're personally attacked. My client, as everyone has the right to do, had a project where the IRS identified what they thought were the capital gains of the project. My client took advantage of the rights under the law to work with them on those numbers, as the IRS does as part of their procedures. They filed liens during that. The IRS agreed to a settlement at my client's amount. The IRS, of course, would never acknowledge whether or not they thought he was right or not, but they agreed to his amount. He did the right business decision there to do it. All of those liens are part of that settlement. I have a lot more to say, obviously, but most of these comments have all been on the record. The only other one I would say is that throughout this process, your staff is authorized by your codes to interpret the code. We have worked with them. Every project we've done has met those codes. Every project we proposed has met those codes. They have confirmed it each time. And again, I just want to end with, this isn't a project where we're ever going to make everyone happy. We all know that. But I think that it is very clear the efforts that both this property owner and this developer have gone to reduce the impact of this project in height and in density, and we sincerely request your approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First item is Plan Commission Case 2023-15P, Zoning Map Amendment 4600 Main Street. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Pierre Slovan. Sure.
This is kind of awkward, but I wanted to ask about potential conflicts of interest. Mr. Gershon, the spokesperson for the developer, has made political campaign contributions to every member of this board except for me. Mr. Gershon co-sponsored a political fundraiser for members of this board and co-sponsored alongside 3 members of this board and 2 members of our legal department. So I would like to ask, do any members of the board need to recuse themselves from this vote due to receiving political campaign donations from the developers? Do any members of this board need to recuse themselves due to co-sponsoring a political fundraiser with the developers? All right. For whatever it's worth, I find it incredibly uncomfortable to know that there are political fundraisers in Skokie that are being hosted by developers, members of this board, and members of our legal department. That, to me, is incredibly problematic. I will say that.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson. Aye. Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
I'm voting nay, and my number one reason is for the complete lack of affordable housing in this development. I really think that this development is a perfect example of why we need an inclusionary housing ordinance in Skokie.
Trustee Pure Slovin.
Aye.
Trustee Klein. Mayor Vendus.
Aye, the motion passes. Next is Plan Commission Case 2023-16P, Subdivision 4600 Main Street. A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson. Aye. Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson. Trustee Pure Slovin.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Vendus.
Aye, the motion passes. And finally, Plan Commission Case 2023-17P, Site Plan Approval, 4600 Main Street. A motion, Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson. Trustee Kuhn.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Nay.
Trustee Pure Slovin.
Aye.
Trustee Klein. Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
That concludes my report.
Thank
Wish
you.
you all a happy holiday and a happy new year.
Happy holiday, Happy New Year. Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Testing, testing,
Okay,
testing.
the meeting will reconvene. Next item on our agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen and trustees. Good evening, everyone. Item A under my report was approved as part of tonight's consent agenda, and that completes my report this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our corporation counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone, as the hour wanes. Item A on my agenda for this evening was part of the consent agenda and was approved at that time. Item B is an ordinance on the agenda for first reading tonight. This ordinance shall establish the compensation for the village manager, deputy village clerk, corporation counsel, and assistant corporation counsels for FY 2024. Pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 3 of the Skokie Village Code. The ordinance is consistent with the Mayor and Board of Trustees' directions during the budget planning for the year 2024 village budget. It includes a cost of living increase only, except in one position it has a salary adjustment to achieve salary parity. Mayor, this will return to the board on January 2nd, 2024.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Johnson. No, it comes back January 2nd.
Not yet done our performance reviews of our village manager and village corporation council. From my understanding, historically, this has always been our process to do performance reviews first. So I guess why are we not doing performance reviews before this ordinance?
We will be doing one when the budget comes up, which will be March or April. So we will be doing a performance review at that point.
Has this
And
board?
this is simply to establish the salaries. It's basically, except for the one position which has an adjustment, is simply the salary plus the COLA. That's it, nothing else.
Colleagues, I'm going to make a motion. I move that we table this ordinance until we have conducted our annual performance reviews of our village manager and corporation council, just as the village board has always done in the past.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
I think it is so telling that this board is unwilling to do a performance review of our corporation council at this moment. Colleagues, I have some comments that I want to make. I know we're not voting on this tonight, but I have some very serious comments. Colleagues, there are so many reasons why we should not be continuing the employment of some of our corporation councils. I'm going to give my top 3 reasons why the 6 of you should absolutely not vote on this ordinance. Number 1, first and foremost, you should not vote for this ordinance because of your conflicts of interest with members of our legal department. Colleagues, you cannot vote on the public employment and compensation of individuals that you have such overt personal and political connections with. Corporation Counsel Lorge and Assistant Corporation Counsel McCarthy have repeatedly made donations to your political campaigns. They have solicited donations to your political campaigns. They have sponsored fundraisers for your political campaigns. They have participated in your vetting and selection as candidates for office. They have collected signatures and managed your petitions to get you on the ballot. They have volunteered and organized volunteers at polling locations to canvass for you. When they began their village employment, they were the literal chair and vice chair of your local political party. If you vote to approve this ordinance, you will be voting for political hiring. You will be steering roughly $400,000 of public money to your own political party and political campaign leaders. Number 2, none of you should vote on this ordinance because of the overt misconduct in our legal department, especially the misconduct involving candidate and voter suppression. All of you are aware that members of this board, including Mayor Van Dusen and Trustee Klein, sent Corporation Counsels Lorge and McCarthy to personally attempt to bribe and threaten me when I was an independent candidate for office. All of you, All of you are aware that this has happened to other local candidates as well. All of you are aware that last year Mayor Van Duzen collaborated with Lords and McCarthy to attempt to block an entire voter-initiated referendum campaign from the ballot. All of you are aware that members of this board have misappropriated the services of village attorneys for political purposes. If you reward these attorneys with continued employment and pay increases, you will be actively covering up misconduct in our legal department. Third, you should not vote for this ordinance because we are absolutely not getting the village services that we need from our current corporation councils. Our politicized legal department often fails to give us the legal advice that we actually need. We have been investigated by the Attorney General's office repeatedly because of our open meetings violations, and our village attorneys have either defended our unlawful practices or they have remained silent. We have had to spend tens of thousands of dollars on outside attorneys because of conflicts of interest with our in-house attorneys. In response to the voter-initiated electoral reform campaign last year, some of our village attorneys openly spread misinformation about village elections and the village's electoral system. And there is a widespread and fair perception in our community that our legal department serves political interests over the interests of the community as a whole. This perception is accurate. In summary, no one on this board should be voting on this ordinance, as is there are major conflicts of interest between this board and our legal department. There has been major misconduct involving our legal department, and our village attorneys have often failed to provide us with adequate legal services. No one who cares about the institutional integrity of our village government would support our village legal department as is. Colleagues, how many of you will be recusing yourselves from this vote due to your conflicts of interest with members of our legal department?
There are no conflicts of interest.
I'm so confused. Doesn't make a difference if I'm a registered Republican or Democrat in the state, so it's irrelevant. But state representatives, state senators, the treasurer, the governor always solicits from me, a donation. I'm so angry, I can't think. Donation. I sign petitions. It is within our legal democratic right to be supportive of candidates. And as far as I understand it, the attorneys for the village are still residents, so they could support outside of the office any candidate they want, whether it's Alliance, Caucus, Republican, Democrat. I don't care what party you identify to. It is allowed within this party. So you're saying that the petition I signed yesterday by someone from the state is illegal based on that. I do business with them as a trustee. I do business with them as a lobbyist in Springfield because I am a registered lobbyist. But everything is legal, so I don't understand why that changes when we sit at this table.
Trustee Pierce-Lovan, I have shared my personal experience with you of Corporation Councils Lords and McCarthy personally trying to bribe and threaten me when I was a candidate for office. What are any of you doing to prevent something like this from happening again?
I'm really troubled by the accusation that we are continuing to try to cover misconduct, that the notion that there was any bribery that took place at all, and that is your perception, that was your experience. But this has come up repeatedly. And in my position here as a trustee, I've never used this dais to talk about any affiliation I've had with the Skokie Caucus Party or use it to pursue any political agenda. And I feel like these attacks that continue to happen is you pursuing your own personal political agenda here.
Trustee Kuhn, you're right that it's kind of a he said with my encounter with Lords and McCarthy in 2020. What have you done in response to their collaboration with Mayor Van Duzen last year that was very public when the three of them tried to block an entire referendum campaign from access to the ballot? There were over 100 people in this room that witnessed an attempt at voter suppression.
It never went forward.
It-
Voted it down.
It was not any attempt at voter suppression. It was perfectly legal. You had an opportunity, you presented it to the Ethics Commission. They voted unanimously to dismiss the charge because everything that was done legally and was done ethically and within the powers that the mayor has. You might not agree with it, but that, you seem to think because somebody doesn't agree with you on something, that therefore makes it a conflict of interest and raises a question of ethics.
I'm raising the question
It
of...
raises a question of politics, not a question of ethics.
Let's raise the question of ethics. How long are we going to allow members of our legal department to collaborate in acts of voter and candidate suppression? Are we going to enter the new year perpetuating the misconduct in our legal department, or are we going to end
That's
this now?
your accusation. I don't see where that's happening. That's your lens.
And how long do we subject ourselves to continuing to be called, to be accused of all these things?
I am going to be advocating for a nonpartisan legal department until we have a nonpartisan legal department and members of this board no longer appoint their own campaign leaders to high-paying positions in our legal department. That's when I will stop
Within
advocating
the
for
state
reform.
government, there's not a nonpartisan legal department. Everybody knows if they're Democrats or Republicans or who they're running under. So I don't understand why we have to be different here.
Colleagues-
You have a right to be part of a party. That's the guarantee of the United States of America.
And no one is entitled to engage in acts of voter and candidate suppression while they are being paid public money by the village of Skokie.
Again, that's an
your
accusation.
accusation. That's your accusation. We don't see that. You're accusing.
Colleagues, if a single one of you had come to me and said someone on staff had tried to bribe you, you better believe I would believe you, and you better believe I would do something about it.
Trustee Klein.
This keeps growing. It's taking on a life of its own.
It's because of your conflict avoidance.
Oh, I'll say my piece, then we'll go. First, you accuse Mr. Lorch of bribery. Now you accuse the mayor and myself of bribery. And you accuse this board of bribery. Is it Kem? Is it Keith, Edie, Ellison? Are they bribing you too? Oh, no, wait, it's gotta be Promote, you know, because he's so, whatever you call it. So, your story keeps growing by leaps and bounds, and this is the first time you brought me and the mayor into it.
Trustee
So, and
Klein.
you brought all of us into it. Are you having trouble keeping your stories in your mind?
No. Do you remember in October 2021, where you informed the entire village board that you knew and supported Corporation Council's Lorch and McCarthy meeting with me and offering me a commission seat to not run for office?
No, you quote properly. I said I knew about it, and I said I thought it was a good idea because you know nothing about local government.
May I make a public comment?
Hold on,
Please.
hold on,
Okay, thank you.
hold on.
So your accusations keep growing and they get bigger. But there's
Let's-
nothing behind it.
Let's move on. Everybody has had an opportunity to
Okay.
speak.
Colleagues, at our next meeting, if this vote goes through, I am walking out of this chamber in protest of the blatant political corruption in our legal department. I have spent 3 years trying to reform this corruption.
Trustee, you've had it, you've had your chance.
All right. At our next meeting, if this board votes to perpetuate the political corruption in our legal department, I'm walking out in protest.
Okay.
Mark my words.
Thank you.
Start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Rachel Van Hoos. I would like to focus on the agenda item, talking about partisan, nonpartisan. This board literally just contradicted its own self, saying it doesn't matter if I'm this or that, and then it says, well, I can be this or that. And please stop comparing us to the state government, and please stop comparing us to to the federal government. This is the local government of the village of Skokie. And sadly, we share a real close border here with Chicago, and the cronyism runs deep. It's deep, okay? Can we just find a way to get up out of the mire and just work with everybody in the community instead of all this defensiveness? The agenda item, my understanding of it, you said COLA. To me, that sounds like a COLA increase. It doesn't sound like a renewal of a contract. I don't know exactly how each of your contracts work, when they start, when they end. If that is the time, the review process, it happens. But the thing is the constant resistance over and over and over to just revising the village code for the future of all of us citizens so that we can just have a more comprehensive process of selection in the future. You hired a fireman and probably went on for 7 minutes about the great lengths we go to select our firemen, and there's 3 lines of village code about appointing the council. And I'm not accusing anyone of any controversy. I don't understand. Like I said, I believe it's a COLA thing, but this is embarrassing, the debating back and forth and the actually contradicting yourself with all the Republican, Democrat, this and that, federal, state. Let's think about Skokie. And another thing, a whole room of people left. I don't really think they care about Skokie.
I think they care very much for the village, whether they agree with the vote or not.
I can't let something be set up there and not share what I know, and I am going to go to what Trustee Johnson is referring to as voter suppression, and it's really important that you know that I check the agendas on Thursday to see what's coming up at the next meeting, and my heart stopped. We were planning our petition signature gathering. I was at another volunteer's house and I had seen the agenda. I called a trustee who is up there, texted. I met with the trustee the day of the meeting. The trustee told me that he was completely unaware of where that came from. I don't know if the rest of you knew where those 3 ballot initiatives that the mayor was trying to put on the ballot for the first time in the entire time that he sat up there, with the exception of that weird electric thing that happened in a lot of places. I mean, we hear from you all the time, Mr. Mayor, that you've been in this business for a very long time, and you've never used the ballot to put anything on there, with the exception of that electrical whatever thing. And now all of a sudden, when we're getting close to getting the number of petition signatures, which was very public on social media, this is the first time that the village of Skokie, and I don't think the mayor writes ordinances, so this is not coming out of nowhere. It's not, and it was dropped, if you all remember that day on Juneteenth, when the mayor said that he didn't want to be divisive. But again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the first time after being in this business for a very long time, that he is using the ballot to poll the public for non-binding referenda, which I don't know how you would have voted because it never went to a vote. It didn't come through, but it's still, you will never convince me it was not an attempt to block a voter-initiated ballot measure.
I'd just like to encourage the board not to underestimate the intelligence of your constituents and taxpayers. Everybody knows that those 3 village board proposed referendums were ridiculous. Leaf blowing, plastic bags. I mean, why not have the number of minutes you're limited to before you pick up your dog poop? So if you wonder what goes on at these meetings, I signed those petitions, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I actually started attending all of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sucker.
I move we adjourn.
We're adjourned.